Hey guys, Christopher McGee with Health and Fitness The Truth. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're gonna go over how to do the bent over barbell row. Here we go. Alright, in this video, as with all my lifting videos, I want to give you that college level education. So we'll go over the prime mover muscles for this, the origin and insertion points for all those muscles. I'll give you the best cues for the movement on this lift, and I will execute the movement myself, of course. Prime movers for the bent over barbell row include a lot of back muscles, specifically your rhomboids, your traps, and we can throw teres major. But there's a lot of muscles involved that if they weren't firing, your static position of good alignment would fall apart. Those are your erector, spinae, glutes, and your hamstrings. And glutes and hamstrings trade off depending on how much you allow your knees to bend. Okay, so those are the prime movers for this movement. I forgot to mention, one of the prime movers, of course, for any row is the biceps. So we'll go over the biceps in this part of the video. So let's go over things real quick. Traps start all the way up at the base of the neck and come all the way down to T12, okay? And that is its medial or center line insertion point. Okay, now imagine that it's coming from the base of the skull, coming all the way wide out here, attaching on here, and then just coming straight down to its T12 insertion. So that's a big muscle, right? And the traps are huge and they have a lot to do. But if you're imagining a muscle that is inserted all along this medial side of the spine, all the way up to the base of the skull, triangles out here to the end of your spine of the scapula, comes all the way back down to T12. When that shortens, it's pulling the scapula in toward the spine. Okay, there's other things that it does, but as far as we're concerned with a row, it is pulling that scapula in and down, hopefully, because we don't want it to go in and up in a row. We want it to go in and down. So that's traps. Okay, let's look at the rhomboid. So the rhomboid is a muscle that sits deep or closer to the bones or further away from the skin, deep to the traps. The trap sits over the rhomboid, and the rhomboid comes from T2 right here. It comes from here all the way down to 5. So T2, 3, 4, and 5. Here's its medial attachment, and it comes and attaches onto this border of the scapula here, everywhere under the spine. So here, it doesn't come way up here. So you can see how if that shortens, again, it's just another muscle that pulls the scapula in toward the spine. Okay, now in other videos, we've mentioned erector spinae and what a mess it is. But again, just imagine a muscle group that starts from the top of your iliac crest here on the posterior or the back side, and it is attached to every one of the spinous processes in between here, all the way up to the base of your neck, okay? And in the space between, it's coming from here and in. It's coming from the spinous processes out onto the ribs, and from the ribs back onto some of the spinous processes, and of course all the way up to the base of the neck. Okay, and if that's shortening, then it's just keeping you from folding over forward. All right, teres major is a muscle that sits on the base of the scapula here, and it just comes from the base of the scapula and comes out onto the neck of the humerus, okay? It's also helping along with the other muscles that sit on the back of the scapula. So you got teres major here, you got teres minor under it, you got infraspinatus here and supraspinatus here. Supraspinatus comes through this space, and those other three insert onto this spot right here. And because that's where they are primarily responsible for external rotation. And teres major here, it comes out and it sits right under them. It is helping with that rotation as well, but it will also, if the arm is extended in front of the torso, it will help pull it back and in as with a row. Okay, so that's teres major. Let's turn Ozai around for biceps. The biceps has two heads. One attaches right in here, and the other head, the long head, this is the short head that attaches up here, the long head attaches up here on the coracoid process, and they both come down and insert onto the radial tuberosity, okay? Radius is the bone on the thumb side of your hand. Okay, I mentioned some other muscles like the glutes and hamstrings, but they're less important here. They support the movement by keeping things stable and in line, but they're not one of the prime movers. So that's it for prime movers, origin, and insertion points. Cues for movement for bent over barbell row. Let's start with where we put the barbell on the rack, okay? We'd want the barbell further down on here. We'd want the barbell at such a spot that I'd have to bend over a little bit to pick it up off the rack. You could also just put the barbell on the floor and pick it up from there, but if you do that, when the barbell's on the floor, it's just a little bit of a hassle to put the plate weights on the side. So if you don't want to deal with that, you can put it on the rack. You'll just want a little bit lower. In which case, if you're on a rack that has these drop bars on them, you'll just want those out of the way. Place your hands on the barbell, face the rack as with any other barbell lift. You want your hands a little bit wider than shoulder width. Step 3, lift the bar, but lift it with good alignment, meaning you're not rounding your back forward and down in order to pick up the barbell and then straighten back up with it. Keep your forward bend happening from your hip hinge, okay? Just the hips are hinging, not all of the vertebrae in your spine. Good alignment also will include making sure you're not rounding your shoulders forward and down. So it'd be possible for you to round out your back, your shoulders, or to keep your back in good alignment but allow your shoulders to protract. You want them retracted, picking up the bar, backing up to the spot in which you'll start your rows. You've picked up the barbell, backed up, you've got your space. You want to hinge forward from the hips. Don't go any further than your torso being parallel to the floor. Once you've hinged from your hips and your torso is close to parallel to the ground, you're in position point A. And position point B is to pull that barbell up into your torso, straight up. Ideally, you're touching the bar to your torso, okay? Once you've pulled it up. If you've got so much weight on the bar that you can't touch your torso with the barbell, then you should probably drop your weight. But the feeling you're going for is squeezing your shoulder blades or your scapula together in toward the spine and your back. That's the feeling you're going for with absolutely any row. There's lots of different ways to do rows. The barbell is just one way to accomplish it. That's what you're going for with any row. You go from having pulled the bar into you to extending it back down, and that's a rep of the bent over barbell row. Okay, so I've got my barbell on the ledge at a point where if I walked straight up to it, my hands wouldn't quite be on it. I'd have to bend over, I'd have to hip hinge just a bit. And I want it there because if it's up here, right, or higher, or just a little bit up from where I've got it now, that means that when I've done all my reps for this exercise and I'm gassed out, I don't have to use all that musculature now to lift it, right, and get it onto the ledge. Now I can just walk forward, slap it against the barbell rack and drop it onto whatever ledge I want to lift it from on my next set. Of course, you could also just drop it on the ground. It could start from the ground, but I just like having it on the ledge because it's easier to put the plate weights on there when it's on the ledge. So I'm approaching the rack, hands just a little bit wider than shoulder width. There's a subtle difference between grabbing it with my palms back and my palms forward. If my palms are back, my biceps will be doing some work, but not as much as if I have my palms forward. My biceps will do a little more work with my palms forward just because they're in a more advantageous spot for pull from here. But it's not like a right or wrong here. You could do it with your palms forward or you could do it with your palms back. Let's do it with my palms forward for this set. I hinge forward, pick up the weight, hinge back a bit. Okay. I'm gonna start with good posture, good alignment, okay? Pelvis right under my spine, shoulders retracted back and down, okay? A little bit of tension in my core. I'm gonna hinge forward at my hips, okay? To a point where I'm close to parallel with the ground. And the more I bend my knees, the more support I'll have from my glutes to be able to be here, okay? If I lock my knees and try to come into this, it puts a lot of stress into my hamstrings. And if I were doing straight-legged hamstring focused deadlifts, that'd be great. But I'm not doing hamstring focused deadlifts here. I'm doing this row, so I don't have to worry about my hamstrings. So I'll just go ahead and bend the knees, okay? And just pulling it straight up into my body. Right there. Now let's just do a few with my palms forward, okay? What'll happen if my palms are forward, like I said, my biceps will do a little more work relative to what they were doing if my palms were back. With my palms back, my elbows were going a little bit more wide, which puts a little bit more stress that I'm not worried about. It's not injurious stress, it's just a little bit more tension in the muscles that go from my scapula out onto my shoulder. Give my hands, palms forward. Elbows will just stay a little closer to my side. And my biceps will do a little more work that way. And it works to just drop it on the ground, of course, or I can put it back on the ledge. There you go, bent over barbell row. Hopefully your barbell game is getting stronger as you watch these videos, and if you think this video could help anybody that you know, please share it. If you like this video, crush that like button, and we'll see you in the next video.